your heart and strength once more. Soon your boat will come ashore. Lift your heart and strength once more. Soon your boat will come ashore.
Great. Now I have two helpers who are going to help me lead the two. Spranya, could you help lead this gal? We're going to do this as a round. And Lauren, I just happened to wander up here. And she'll lead this out. Work together. How about this side start? Okay.
Your heart and strength once
We're
more.
going to have the courage to start at the right place. 1, 2, I'm actually strumming on the floor. This is why I need a helper, because I'm strumming off the beat.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Lift your heart and strength once more. Lift your heart and strength once more. Soon your boat will come ashore. Lift your heart and strength once more. Soon your boat will come ashore. Lift your heart and strength once more. Soon your boat will come ashore.
One last. Together.
Lift your heart and strength once more. Soon your boat will come ashore.
Our readings every Sunday are taken from Rays of the One Light by Swami Kriyananda, which are weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. This week, perfection is self-transcendence. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. We begin this week with a passage from the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 5. Love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. If ye love them which love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the tax collectors the same? And if ye salute your brethren only, what do ye more than others? Do not even pagans so? Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. This teaching is a continuation of last week's lesson. To love all equally is possible only by seeing God everywhere, in others as well as in oneself. See whatever comes to you unasked for as a manifestation of His will. Be grateful for the pains you experience, for they are healing strokes of His love. Sometimes healing is effected only by strong measures, but His love for you is manifested in the very attempt to heal. Strive always to be impersonal, as though whatever happens to you were happening to someone else. Persecution gives us the supreme opportunity to deny the thought, this is happening to me, and to affirm our inner freedom from the thought of ego. Don't allow the negative perceptions of others to become your own self-definition. Seek God. This is the true goal of life, though how difficult to cling to in the midst of hatred, spite, and persecution. The Bhagavad Gita tells us in the 7th chapter, out of thousands, one strives for spiritual attainment, and out of many blessed true seekers who strive assiduously to reach me, one perhaps perceives me as I am. O truth seeker, be one among all those thousands who seeks the supreme goal. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Good morning. My name is Pavani, and this is my husband Vajra, and we're joined by Surendra and Lorna, and it's our joy to be with you this morning. I was sitting there thinking, you know, the reading is a different experience when you're sitting up here physiologically. It's a little more adrenaline of an experience. But then the thought came, we're all just friends. So thank you for being here. So there was a couple, and we'll call them Roger and Mary. And Roger did something rather unwise, and Mary was upset. And he apologized, and they made up. But Mary kept bringing up what Roger had done. And finally, Roger said, "Why do you keep bringing this up? I thought your policy was forgive and forget." And Mary said, "Well, it is, but I don't want you to forget that I'm forgiving and forgetting." Love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. This is a challenging teaching, but a very, very important one. Swami Kriyananda recounts a dream he had once and in the dream he was in another lifetime, and he was very devoted to a friend. And that friend took advantage of his love and was very unkind to him, to the point of condescension and contempt. And Swami felt deeply bitter about this in the dream. And as dreams go, he came to the end of his incarnation in that dream, and he realized that if he died with that bitterness in his heart, that they would be drawn together again magnetically, but their roles would be reversed. That's an interesting thing to meditate on. And so he knew he couldn't control his friend learning whatever lessons he needed to, but he could ask if he could be free from it right now. And so from deep within his heart, he cried, "I forgive him." And in that moment, he felt this ineffable relief, and that his karmic burden had been lifted. So Swami was able to forgive his friend in that dream, but it doesn't always feel so possible, does it? Because we can't do it from our egos, from our little selves. There's a woman named Corrie ten Boom, some of you may have heard of, and she was in a Nazi concentration camp with her sister and survived, and she wrote a book called The Hiding Place. And she toured around lecturing on love and forgiveness. And one time, she noticed in the back of the room a man who was a former prison guard. And this was a little difficult for her. And he came up to her afterwards, and he thanked her and said, "I'm grateful to know that I can be forgiven for what I've done. Can you also forgive me?" And here she'd been lecturing all over the world on love and forgiveness, and she didn't think she could do it. So she prayed, "Lord, you have to do this through me." And she reached out her hand and felt this wave of love come through. And so that's another clue of how we can transcend that little self by asking and allowing God to flow through us. there's another way that's mentioned in the reading of how to transcend our egos, ourselves, and that is by being more impersonal. And that's a word that I didn't really care for many years, because to me it seemed kind of cold and unfeeling. Until I heard this definition, that being impersonal with other people is not wanting anything in return. I'll say that again, because it's an interesting thing to contemplate. Being impersonal with other people is not wanting anything in return, not wanting anything back from them. And that is actually selfless love. And so when we're being impersonal, we actually can be more loving and more caring because we're going beyond our personal likes and dislikes and feelings and the ego's tendency to separate relationships into this one's special and this one isn't. And we're able to just allow God's love to flow through us unconditionally. I've tried to practice this, but it's not easy to just let go if I'm actually wanting something in return, which most of us do in our relationships, especially our close ones, wanting love or friendship or acceptance. And that's because, for myself, I can say it's because I'm trying to relate from my ego to their ego, and I'm trying to get my ego to let go, right? And it doesn't work so well. So Swami talks about the need instead to relate from one's center to the other person's center. And I've been experimenting with this, and it's a very interesting practice. And I have found a different experience in doing it. So I'm going to invite you for a moment to, if you'd like to close your eyes, and just settle into your experience of your center from meditation, and relax into that. And then visualize someone that you have a positive relationship with that you're personally very close to. Could be a spouse or child or sibling. And feel as if you're relating to them from your center to their center. And just notice if there's anything different about it. Now imagine someone in front of you that you have a difficult time with. And again, relax into your own center. And imagine relating to them from your center to their center. And just notice if that feels any different. And you can open your eyes when you're ready. Yogananda said, "We have no idea how beautiful each one of us is to the divine. And let's share that precious gift as well as we can. Let's see the innate beauty in everyone and everything. Then the whole world will become our friend." And today is a very experiential service. So to close, I'm going to again invite you to join me in some simple movements to a song by Swami Kriyananda, a children's song, "All the World is My Friend." And it's a light song because it's a children's song, but we're going to do it a little more inwardly and slowly, just to tune into, it really does express how to be a channel of unconditional love to everyone in the world. So, and this is optional, so if you'd like to participate, you can stand. And if you're close to someone, This is a new thing we're going to try. Just try turning a quarter turn towards the center, so you're on a diagonal, so that if you move your arms to the side, you won't hit the person next to you. I'm going to try that. Okay. So we'll just go through the movements. If you don't know the words, just follow along, it's fine. And then we'll do it with guitar. We'll just do it. So, all the world is my friend. When I learn, and this is the right hand, how to share my love. When I stretch out my hands, and this is different for those who've done it before, and smile. When I live from above. Okay, we'll do that one more time. So the and smile, you can feel there's an openness and a certain vulnerability in it, which is an important part of courage and being able to be a channel of love. So all the world is my friend. When I learn how to share my love, when I stretch out my hand and smile, when I live from above. Okay, now we'll try it with guitar and singing it, yeah, a little slowly. Thank you.
For to go first, so she doesn't have to follow me. We may need to revisit that. It's kind of a tough act to follow. You start with a reading from Whispers from Eternity. Be the pole star for my ship of thoughts. O Heavenly Father, be thou the pole star for my ship of thoughts and the rudder for my bark of self-discovery. Guide me to the land of eternal bliss. And on we go. This is the follow-up from last week, how high should we aspire, which put me in mind of a, get rid of this, story, conversation between a rabbi and a priest. And the rabbi asked him, so tell me, in your organization, how high can you rise? And hypothetically, you say your rosaries, you mind your P's and Q's, do everything just right. And the priest responded, well, I could hypothetically become a bishop or an archbishop. And the rabbi said, yeah, and that's it. Well, no, if I were appointed, I could theoretically be a cardinal, say. Yeah, and that's as high as you go. Well, I could be elected pope if the cardinals got together and chose me to be pope. And the rabbi said to him, so that's as far as it goes? That's as high as you get, the pope? And the priest turned to him in exasperation and said, well, what do you expect me to be, Jesus Christ? And the rabbi said, well, one of our boys made it. Be ye therefore perfect. No pressure, though. Be ye therefore perfect. This is about trying to manifest our divine nature, what is our true reality within us. But it's not that easy. As the Bhagavad Gita says, it's often put in slightly different terms from what we heard today. Out of 1,000, one seeks me. And out of 1,000 seekers, one perhaps finds me. Well, that puts it about 1 in 1,000,000. Now, a different way of looking at that, a different way of thinking about that is, if you lived in China and you were 1 in 1,000,000, there would be over 1,000 just like you. There's 1 billion people in China. When we hear the words, "Be ye therefore perfect," our ears hear, "Be ye therefore perfect." But what do our minds think? I am so imperfect. And we think, oh, well, that's just humility. But that's the problem, because that's not really humility. Humility is self-forgetfulness. That's false humility, because it's putting the attention on us. We have a tendency to go through this world, feeling like everybody is judging us, everybody is looking at us, everybody is thinking about us. It's like that elementary school report card that you get. You get a G for good. You get an I for improving. You get an N for not working up to full extent of ability. Or an R, requires adjustment. So we tend to think that that's what's happening in the world. But in fact, nobody's thinking that much about you or us, because they're too busy caught up in their own reality, thinking about them and worrying about what other people are thinking about them. I'm reminded of what's often referred to as a poem of St. Francis. It's a lovely poem. It's everywhere. It's in my bookmark from Whispers from Eternity today. And this is a spoiler alert. If you're really attached to the idea that actually came from St. Francis, you might want to cover your ears now. Because it didn't. It's a nice idea, but let's look at that. And there's a reason for looking at that. You know the poem. It's, "Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring love." It's a lovely sentiment. It's been traced as far back as 1912, when it appeared in a little French publication. And it kind of caught fire. And around World War II, a bishop put it on the back of a religious card with St. Francis's picture on the other side of the card. So it's a lovely poem. And why not attribute it to St. Francis? Well, there is a reason why not to attribute it to St. Francis. St. Francis, Yogananda referred to as the patron saint of our teachings. And it behooves us to tune into who St. Francis was and what he brought to us, what he represented, how he taught us. When Swami Kriyananda was at the Portiuncula meditating on St. Francis, he was overwhelmed with a feeling of love, and he thought to himself, how can there be so much love? And the answer that came to him was by not judging anyone. And that also applies to himself, by not judging himself. St. Francis was too busy listening to God to be thinking about petitioning him to make him something else. And that's the problem with that poem. It's not a problem exactly, but it's an aspect of it that's worth looking at. It was been said of that poem that one can safely say, although he is not the author, it resembles him and would not have displeased him. It would not have displeased him, but it doesn't really reflect him. Let me bring love, let me bring pardon, let me bring union, let me bring truth, let me bring faith. Useful sentiments, perhaps, but it's all about me. And that wasn't what St. Francis was about. Humility is self-forgetfulness. So it's not about looking at how imperfect we are. It's not about looking at what others might think of us. It's about listening. It's about tuning into, what does God want from us? What does God have to say to us? What is it that we can feel and hear inwardly that is the guidance that we're seeking? What St. Francis heard was, rebuild my church. So he went right out, gathering stones, gathering mortar, and literally rebuilding the church at, what was it, San Damiano? And from there was led to the deeper meaning of what God had in store for him, which was rebuilding his church on a deeper, more spiritual level. So this is what is being asked of us if we want to be perfect. That's how we become perfect. It's not by looking at how we're doing. It's not by grading how we're doing, how we're failing, where we're coming up short, what other people may think of us. All that is put aside, and what we're doing is listening. God, what do you want me to do? That's what all the teachings are here for, to give us the techniques, meditation, service, nothing like service to take you out of yourself and focus on somebody else for a change. What you can do for them takes you away from, oh, I need this, and oh, I need that. Yogananda pointed out that inner communion should be a habitual attitude of mind, not only a daily practice. So it's not just what we do from day to day. Yes, it is that, and serving is a huge part of that, but it's an attitude. It's a way we approach things that is just, okay, God, what are we doing today? What is it that we're trying to express? We're finding that inner guidance, we're finding that intuition, so we can hear it ever more perfectly. Swami pointed out, what is the reason? Then again, this is part of that process. Well, first let me say that developing that habitual attitude of mind, being able to resist the temptation to be pulled into the ego in every situation and to be thinking about how does this affect me? What does this do for me? But being focused on, okay, God, what are we doing here? What do you want me to do? How shall I express thy grace, thy love, thy openness? That's what makes you one in a million. When you can take that and let that be the guide for your life. What is the reason we should love friend and enemy alike? From Swamiji. Because God dwells equally in all. And how can we bless them that curse us? How can we feel that divine grace flowing through us, as Pavani alluded to? By giving love to all impersonally, not from egoic predilection, the likes and the dislike, but with God's love. Again, that's what makes us one in a million. And finally, we need to recognize that we can achieve perfection only by God's power, never by our own. What we do, our personal effort, can invite grace, but finally, it can't replace the need for that divine grace to change us, because that's what truly changes us. All we can do is open the door to allow it to come to us. That recognition, that understanding that that's what we're doing, that makes you one in a million. So if we stop framing everything in terms of I, my, me, mine, and instead look to, Swami puts it so simply, just a few simple words, which express the essence of what Christ was saying in Be Ye Therefore Perfect. We must seek perfection in God, live consciously by His love, visualize His presence in all, and share with them the love we receive inwardly from Him. Thus alone, with His grace, can we achieve all that we have ever sought in life. Now, it may be that the odds are 1 in a million, but it's well worth the effort.
This is another song by Swami Kriyananda. By happy coincidence, both of the songs are from the Mystic Harp CD. This one is Emerald Isle. As well as Lift Your Heart, not all the world.
I sing you of emerald hills, of valleys and meadows so fair, that all who have seen them have carried away memories in their hearts, friends, like the lilacs of May. Oh, my song is the story of the lilacs of May. My song is the story of deer on the hills, of larks that soar seeking the sun, of nightingales lifting the curtain of night, as with music they bring down heaven's blessing of light. Oh, my song is the story of God's blessing of light. Come join me in singing of that emerald isle, of flowers that like jewels besprinkled a lea, of waterfalls eager to embrace the wide sea, as we with our Maker united would be. As we with our Maker reunited would be. Come here while I sing you of emerald hills, of valleys and meadows so fair, that all who have seen them have carried away memories in their hearts, friends, like the lilacs of May. Oh, my song is the story of the lilacs of May.
Good morning, welcome. It's May, and we have a new list of activities and events coming up this month. You can pick this up at the front desk, and of course, you can go online and see our calendar there. This week on Tuesday, we'll have our new Learn to Meditate series that we offer each month. You can always retake that if you'd like for free. And we also have next Sunday, our Mother's Day brunch, which will be happening at the community at 1 o'clock. So if you would like to partake, any of you ladies, you are welcome to, and any gentlemen, if you would like to help out with that, please let us know. As the Bob, were you lifting your hand? No. Anyway, that's next Sunday, 1 o'clock. We would love to have you there. And then a heads up for May 17th, 18th, 19th, that weekend, we are having a friend from Ananda Palo Alto come, Tiagi Shanti Rubenstone will be here, and she's a physician, and she's here to give a program, a talk on Friday night, a retreat on Saturday, and she'll also be doing Sunday service then. This is part of what we call our SAGE series, where we're inviting others from around the Ananda world to come and spend some time here in Portland with us. So just mark that on your calendar. Next Sunday, we have a wonderful event called the Joyathon. Are you going to come up here and tell us about that, Bharati? Isn't that what I said? Well, I'm glad you guys are paying attention, because it's Saturday at the community on May 11th, right? Tell us more.
Well, we'll see if I have any of the facts right. But so upcoming is one of the most fun days of our whole school year. And part of the reason it's so fun is because the students all get together and we set up a circuit in the community, and they'll walk or skate or ride their bikes or do whatever they want to do. We've had people skip or jump rope the whole way, and they get pledges. And some of them get an amount per lap. And so for an hour, they really put their all out there. They engage their willpower as well as their physical being and try to do as many laps as they possibly can to help their school out. It's also possible, if you're interested, to sponsor a student and nobody happens to come around and ask you to sponsor them. We have on our website now a donation link. The other thing that you might want to do is come join us at the Joyathon. Besides the kids doing their activities, there will be baked goods and beverages for sale. We'll have an amazing taco bar. So this is between 9 and 12. The taco bar is usually around 11, 11:30, something like that. And then there's different little things. I hear we're going to have fairy hair again. Maybe you'd enjoy that. Anyway, it's really wonderful and a lot of fun, and we hope you'll join us.
It's a lovely annual activity that uplifts everybody, part of the school and in the community.